Hi, welcome back to Advanced Software Engineering. Today we will talk about project scheduling. For scheduling, we have 6 general principles. First one is compartmentalization. We know we have a project with a certain system vision. We know what type of system we have to develop by now, and then we just have to break down what are the different parts that we need to get done. There is a front end we need to get done, there is a back end we need to get done, there are the phases of requirements engineering, design, implementation, testing, deployment, and then evolution and maintenance. And independent of whether I do that in a more traditional phase-based process or whether I do that in agile sprints, I'm still going to have to take care of those 5 to 6 different phases that can then overlap, and they can be short or they can be longer, but there are 6 different things I need to take care of. And I need to break down the project in chunks that I can take care of design-wise. And then there was project management. So while we were doing all the development things with requirements engineering, design implementation, and so on, we also have some project management going on that makes sure we stay on track with our timeline, and that keeps us in communication with the customer, and that includes overall quality assurance. Second principle is we need to understand what the interdependencies are between those tasks. That means you heard when I was talking about, and then we also need to do project management on the side, which also does the communication with the customer and the quality assurance. Like, we see there is a lot of interdependency going on between those individual tasks. While I run through my phases of software development, I always have quality assurance going on and I always have project management going on. And there will always be a timeline that I need to adhere to, and I need to stay on top of where I am in my budget and whether I'm on target. So we need to be clear about what the interdependencies are in between our tasks. Number 3, effort validation. That means we need to figure out, when we're trying to schedule this project, do I have all the resources that I need? When I enter my requirements engineering phase, do I have enough people on board that are skilled in requirements engineering methods? Do I have a good system architect for the next phase? Do I have people who are skilled in those implementation technologies that we choose for this particular project? Do I have the network resources available? Do I have the hardware? Do I have the software tools that I need? And do I have access to reusable components if I found out during my feasibility study that I would be able to use some of those? 4, defined responsibilities. When I have my compartmentalized, interdependent plan all written down and I validated that, yep, we got all the resources we need, if I don't write down who is responsible for which task, then how am I going to make sure these things get done? So in a study that we've been doing for a few years now, this is a global study that has run in its 3rd iteration, that's called Naming the Pain in Requirements Engineering. One of the biggest problems was actually during development that responsibilities were not clearly defined and the roles were unclear. So this is the 4th principle for project scheduling, and really important. For anything I define up here, gotta tell who's going to do the job, who is responsible for this particular task. And that doesn't mean that there is only one person that will get it done. They may have a whole team under them, but there needs to be one person that holds the responsibility. Now I have defined who's going to do the requirements engineering and the design. But do they know what exactly we are targeting as an outcome so they can do their job really well? While I can break down really nicely what a person should do one thing after the other, and we can do this with a really simple example. Like imagine somebody taught you how to put on a shoe and you have to tie the laces, but you've never seen what a tied shoelace looks like. And they just walk you through the steps and they tell you something about make one bunny ear with one lace and then make one bunny ear with the other. And you're like, bunny ears on shoes? I don't know what they're talking about. So they're like, okay, make a loop. Make one loop with this one, make one loop with the other one. And then you wrap them around one the other and then you pull them tight. And you might be pretty confused at some point what that looks like, because remember, you have never seen what a tied shoe looks like. And it's going to be so much easier if you knew what you were going for. So if we define the outcome, if you know what a tied shoe looks like, and then they walk you through the steps of here's the first loop, here's the second loop, now you twist the one thing around the other one, and then you pull it tight, and you know what you're aiming towards, you're going to get that done, no problem. So you want to make sure that everybody in your teams is clear what the defined outcomes are for the tasks that they have assigned. And then last but not least, we have defined milestones. So for getting things done on time and for getting the interdependencies resolved, including getting things done on time, we need some milestones intermediate. We don't only need the delivery date at the very end, we also before need when are the requirements done in a first draft? When are they going to be validated? When is my design going to be done in a first draft? When do I have my first prototype to show to the customer to see whether they like the user interface design that we came up with? And so on and so forth. So intermediate milestones that show a network of the interdependencies are really important. So trying to take all those 6 principles, and what that means is if you reflect back to our lecture where I drew up the Gantt chart for project management, you have a very generic Gantt chart that says, here are your tasks, here are your milestones, and now imagine you also had the interdependencies. So this was the little milestone symbol, and you have another one here. And then you know, oh, that task 1, task 2, task 3, this task can only start once they have reached a specific milestone. And then task 4 may only be able to start once both task 1 and task 3 have reached their milestone. And then you assign the responsible people. So responsible for this one, Joe. Responsible for this one, Alice. And for that one, Jane. And then Joe is going to be done with his first tasks, so he can also be the one responsible for task 4 down here. And so we see with the interdependencies and the coordination between them, maybe task 2 is also gonna, the milestone in task 2 is also gonna kick off task 5. And then here at the very end, we can assign Alice, because Alice is done with her responsibility for task 2. Here, that's our overall project deliverable. Project deployed with customer. So in here, you see we've done the compartmentalization, we've identified those 5 distinct tasks, we've noted what the interdependencies are in between those. We kind of did our effort validation in the background, let's say. We know we have Joe, Alice, and Jane on this project, And let's say we also check the hardware that we need and the resources. We define the responsibilities because we assign them to the tasks. Define the outcomes. Yes, that also needs to happen. So here, for example, for the tasks that Joe and Alice were working on, the defined outcome may be some kind of template for a requirement specification. So here for our outcome. And we have to find the milestones. For example, template for requirement specification. So this is how you take those 6 principles and turn them into a project scheduling plan.